You've probably heard Virginia Giuffre's story told through headlines and court documents, but her memoir, Nobody's Girl, is her chance to finally reclaim that narrative. So, in this explainer, we're diving right into her book to hear her firsthand account of survival, resilience, and what it takes to find your voice against, well, unimaginable odds. And this quote, wow, it really just sets the stage for everything. This isn't just about what happened to her, it's about the transformation that came after, a metamorphosis, like she says, from being silent to becoming a warrior. So let's get into how that whole journey began. To really get this story, we have to go back to the beginning. See, long before she was a public figure, her childhood was a string of traumatic events that, in her own words, made her incredibly vulnerable and a target for predators. I mean, this timeline shows the sheer speed of her childhood trauma. Her memoir talks about being molested, which kicked off this awful cycle of running away, living on the streets under the name Rachel, only to be brought back to foster care. And in this just devastating twist, only hours before her trafficking began, she was brutally assaulted by a stranger. She was living in a constant state of crisis. And this is where it gets so haunting. Right after escaping that attack, she's alone, she's desperate, and a stretch limo pulls up. You know, her first thought isn't about being saved, it's about a Disney villain, Cruella de Vil. It's just such a chilling look into a child's mind trying to make sense of the absolute horror unfolding around her. So, that limo ride, that was her entry into this whole other world of incredible wealth and power, all controlled by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. It was a gilded cage, sold to her with all these promises of help and a better life. Picture this. She's just 16 years old, working a job at the Mar-a-Lago spa, really trying to get her life together. And that's when Ghislaine Maxwell comes up to her. The way she describes it in the book, the whole interaction was designed to be warm, disarming, totally harmless. And this is the hook, the bait. In that very first conversation, Maxwell doesn't sell Epstein as a threat. No, he's a benefactor, a genius who just loves to help people. This promise of mentorship, of financial help, that was the lure. For years, she was trapped, and this is how she talks about the aftermath. This isn't some clinical textbook definition. It's a survivor's definition. It just shows you how the past is never really past, how it just lurks there, ready to be triggered by the smallest, most ordinary things, a truly cunning enemy. But her story, thankfully, does not end in that cage. The next part of her story is about her escape, and it's the moment that offered the first real glimmer of hope. The irony here is just incredible, right? Her abusers literally handed her the keys to her own escape. By sending her to Thailand all by herself for massage school, they gave her something she hadn't had in years, distance, and a little bit of independence. It was an opening, and she absolutely took it. I mean, look at this contrast. It is just night and day. After a life where she had zero power, she writes that in Thailand, for the first time in forever, I felt free. Just being able to make friends, to make her own choices, it was, in her words, liberating. And that newfound freedom, it led to this whirlwind change. She meets a man named Robbie in Thailand, and it took just 10 days for them to get married. 10 days. Let that sink in. That number just shows you the incredible speed at which she was seizing control of her own life and building a new one completely separate from the past. Okay, so building a new life is one thing, but becoming a public voice for justice, that's a whole different level. This next part is about the turning point that awakened the warrior she talked about at the beginning. For a long time, she was a private survivor, but then everything changed. The birth of her daughter, Ellie, was the catalyst. Looking at her child, she says, turned her own personal pain into a public mission. She had to protect other girls and hold her abusers accountable. And let me tell you, that fight was a long and brutal one. The decision to speak out brought threats of bankruptcy, even death threats. It meant going to court and confronting some of the most powerful people on the planet. But through it all, her advocacy led to actual changes in the law, and she even created her own foundation, SOAR, to help other victims. And this is so crucial. Her battle wasn't just for her own justice. It created this ripple effect. By refusing to be silenced, she helped push for real-world change, like the Eliminating Limits to Justice for Child Sex Abuse Victims Act, that makes it easier for other survivors to step forward and get the justice they deserve. Which brings us right back to the title of her book, Nobody's Girl. It's more than a title, it's a declaration of independence.
It's the final word on reclaiming her own life and her own story. From the absolute ashes of her past, look at the life she has built. Today, she's a mom to 3 kids, she runs her own foundation, she's rebuilt relationships with her family, and she found a true partner in her husband. She has become a global advocate for survivors. It's a life defined not by her abusers, but by her own strength.
Her memoir is this incredible testament to survival against all odds, but it also kind of leaves us with a pretty powerful question. As a society, we consume these stories, we follow the legal cases, so what is our role in all of this? What's it going to take for us to move beyond just hearing stories of survival and to start truly collectively believing them?